Welcome back to Homestead Kickoff Week. We are here for another Stories of Hope session tonight. This is my favorite part of Homestead Kickoff Week is in the evening when we sit down together for some heart-to-heart chats and we share stories of hope. And tonight I'm actually bringing in one of my friends from off the internet, one of my real life friends. Her name is Crystal, and she is going to share with us some lessons on the Good Shepherd that we can learn from raising sheep. So this is going to be a fun call. She's going to be jumping on here in just a minute, and I'll add her when she arrives. But while we're waiting, I would love to know, where are you watching from tonight? And what classes have you been tuning into this week? We are officially on day 5 of Homestead Kickoff Week. It has been a really fun week so far, and we've still got 5 more days of free classes to go, y'all. We're really just getting started good. We still have canning ahead. There's Crystal. Hey, friend.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm great. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Thank you for joining us tonight for this little combo.
Thank you for having me.
So everybody is rolling in and letting us know where they're watching from. And we are excited to talk with you tonight about sheep. We've been talking livestock all day today. We've had classes on chickens and ducks, and we've got books going on in this homestead bundle about all the animals, rabbits, goats, quail, all of it. And tonight we want to learn about sheep a little bit. So tell us a little bit about you. Just go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone.
Well, hi everyone. I see Mooresville. That's my neighbor, Mooresville, North Carolina. Um, I, my name is Crystal. I live in North Carolina. I'm almost a neighbor with you, Amber.
Yes.
And it's great to be on here and also have a real life connection. That's
Yes. It's the best.
not usual. But after we have a little farm here in the foothills of North Carolina. Um, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But after you asked me to do this, about sheep, because we're not professional sheep farmers. I started feeling like, inadequate, and I was struggling. And I was like, I don't have anything to say, and I'm just gonna look like an idiot. And there's so many people that know more than I do, and the Lord just really ministered to my heart today and reminded me that that's the point. Like,
Yes.
that's the entire point of learning Him as our shepherd,
Mm-hmm.
because sheep don't have to work or strive. Like, the Bible talks a lot about sheep and oxen, but oxen do a lot of work. Sheep just graze and they lay down and rest, and they, are led by the still waters. And so it was just such a good reminder to me that I don't have to perform or have it all figured out. And even in the homesteading circles, a lot of times we feel like I have to have it all figured out, or I have to know it all before I start, and that's just a lie. That's
Yeah.
you just do something, and the Lord doesn't require us to know everything to come before Him as our shepherd. So I wanted to share that right off the bat, because it was just like He reminded me of that tonight. I was like, oh, it was just like a breath of fresh air. I was like, thank you, Lord, that I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about knowing and figuring it out, and knowing everything. So I appreciate you having me,
Of
and
course.
it's an honor to be here and talk to all of your people. We bought our little farm here about 13 years ago, and it was when I had 3 babies under the age of 3.
Wow.
But it was so we actually didn't build our home here for a couple of years, because we were trying to save up and cash flow as much as we could. And so since then we've ended up being able to adjoin an additional a farm that was adjoining ours. And so we have about 100 acres here now, and we raise beef cows. We raise Wagyu cross cows for beef, and we sell that here on our farm. And we sell eggs when my chickens are cooperating.
I understand.
You know how that is. Um, and just a few other farm raised things and farm made things. And we have 5 boys that also work on the farm and have different jobs that they perform here. And um, we homeschool now, but we've had a combination of homeschool and private school depending on our season. And so right now we're in a season of homeschool, and this is my jam. I love being
Oh,
home with my boys and us being together. And um, we have a little weekly uh, co-op. We host a little weekly academic co-op here on the farm, and so that gives us good community. And so we're just busy. We're busy. You know how
yeah.
farming is.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love your homeschool co-op. I like all the things you post about it. You guys watching should go follow Crystal and just watch the things their homeschool co-op does. It's so inspiring how these kids are learning things that like I didn't learn until I had already bought a little piece of land and was trying to learn to homestead. And they're learning this stuff as kids. It's amazing.
It's really incredible to see. And we actually have hosted a couple of homeschool workshops for our local community, which is how we
Mm-hmm.
connected. I asked you to come speak to us, and it was an amazing workshop. And so the kids, they're learning about growing seeds, and we're learning about incubating eggs and just getting hands on. Actually, we had a chick die, and they found it this past week. And so that was kind of part of the whole process of it, which I think was good for them to see. I mean, obviously, we don't want
Yeah.
we don't want to lose our chicks, but you know, just that full circle experience, I think, is so cool to them. And so that's what we have going on all day, every day.
I love it. Okay, so now tell me about your sheep. And everybody watching may be surprised by this because when I was trying to decide who to bring on for this to talk about sheep, I have a handful of friends who raise sheep, but like it had to be you. And you probably have the least sheep of anybody I know, but like it had to be you because I knew that of everybody I knew, you would have the lessons here to share with us about what the Father is teaching you through sheep. And, just through the conversations you and I have had, like offline, privately, you've really made Josh and I fall in love with the idea of sheep. And now we're on this whole kick and we're going to try to run sheep through our apple orchard. And we're really excited about that. But I want you to just share a bit about your experiences with sheep and like what it has been teaching you, and yeah, we're all just going to settle in and soak this up.
Well, when you asked me, I was like, huh? Like me? Y'all, I have 4 sheep. That's how like small time we are. We are not professionals. And so when you asked me, I was like, but like, do you know? Amber, you really, so I sent Amber a Marco Polo, and I was like, okay, let's just get things real clear here, Amber. I have no idea a lot about sheep. I mean, I'm not very I'm gonna put these on so I can see you better. I'm not a sheep farmer, and there's so many more people. Like you said, there are a lot of people here on the gram that know a lot more about sheep than I do. But he was like, "Yes, I know, I understand, and you're the one." I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna lean into it, and I'm gonna do what God has put in my lap to do." So I appreciate that you asked me, because I feel like it really caused me to dive a little bit deeper into those deep things and that He has for us. Because the Bible has like a lot about shepherds and sheep. I mean, it is significant. I the Bible mentions shepherds and shepherding over 200 times.
Wow, I didn't know it was that
I
many. Wow.
either. And so it's a pretty big deal to the Father. And multiple times He's called the Good Shepherd and says, I'm, refers to us as His sheep. So it must be something that's important, that we should learn about, right? So if He places importance on it, we should probably figure out why. So I will, kind of let everybody know. I just consider myself like a little bit homesteader. Like I just do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I'm not an expert at anything in particular. I just kind of dabble and I'm not trying to like turn into this 100% like self-sustaining thing. The thing that I think is important, and I'm looking at my notes here, and I had to make it real big because I can't see anything. To like blow the screen up, like so I could remember what I was gonna say. But I think that it's really important. Number one, for us, is that I just want to constantly be learning new skills, knowledge about self, you know, sustainability. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like I said, I'm an expert at none, but I dabble in a lot. I do a little bit of canning. I try to put in a big garden, um, with, varied success. But at least that, I'm getting out there and I'm trying new things and I'm, making a little bit of progress in a lot of different areas. And I think that's something important that a lot of people that want to be homesteaders but are trying to learn about it and think, oh, this is so overwhelming, is that, just try it.
Yeah,
Just,
start small.
yeah, just give it a try. And even if you're not like an expert, you will have some form of experience to draw from later on when you might actually need it.
Yeah.
So that's that's kind of where I am on it. I think it's important that we kind of know the basics of just being able to take care of our families if we needed to.
Yes.
Um, and so that's one of my passions is just being more self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Um, but also part of my passion about gardening and homesteading and just raising animals is that it teaches us about God's nature. And
Mm. Yeah.
garden just through stewarding his creation, the garden and animals, we learn so much. And the garden teaches us that sometimes we have to be buried in the dark,
Mm.
you know, and of unknown and rest and be completely hidden away before we can bear fruit.
Yeah.
And so I'm, every garden season I'm out there and I'm pulling weeds and I'm digging and I'm like, just soaking in all of this, these lessons that we can learn from doing that. And then I feel like raising animals teaches us about loss. Like I just talked about, we lost a little chick and, but joy
Mm.
and hope and also stewardship.
Yeah.
So, um, that's what my passion is. I don't have to have 100 sheep. Lord, I don't think I could handle 100 sheep. No, like
Four is enough.
four's good. We're good on the four. To learn those lessons. And so even the homesteaders that are watching or just starting out, you don't have to go all in. You can start with a container in your garden and just start with that.
Yeah.
You you can get 1 sheep. You can get 2 chickens and just start somewhere very small. So our sheep journey, I'll go ahead and start. I'll just keep rambling if I don't stay with my notes.
You're good. You're good. I'm loving
Uh,
this.
our sheep journey started about a year ago, and actually our bottle baby sheep that we got was born on Resurrection Sunday. So we're just coming up on just about a year. And a friend of ours, we're running quite a lot of sheep, and they called me and they were like, "Hey, do you want a bottle baby? We have a bummer lamb." So went over there, and we were like, "Sure, let's just do this." We weren't ready, of course. That's how it always we just
Yep.
do it. And so we got her a day old, or maybe probably just 24 hours. And so we named her Millie because my favorite movie is Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. And
Oh, I love that movie.
like, you might not know know what that is. But so we
That
raised
was my childhood. I was raised on old musicals.
same, same. It's such a weird movie, really, to look back and think, oh, that was a little, you know.
Yeah.
But so then we raised her, and she just became like a pet. She was just like one of the dogs, just run with the dogs. And so we then added just a few weeks ago Dorcas and Alice, twin lambs, and they were actually orphaned at about a month old. And so we are bottle feeding them. They're adorable, white, just the sweetest white little lambs. And the funny thing about that, and part of the lessons that I really love that we learn from sheep in particular, is that not only it like teaches us about the heart of God towards us, but then we can learn also how we as parents can be good shepherds of our children's hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are just such valuable, I think, things that we can really just dig into um, and learn from, because it's interesting because we have this comparison of like a day old lamb and we have the month old lambs, and the level of connection is so um our day old lamb, she was connected with us immediately almost, and she followed, she would run in the house with the dogs and sit on the porch with us, and even now, like if she sometimes we free range our sheep. she will she will just come follow me around the yard, and she'll come sit next to me in my chair, and she's just part of the family. But these other two, the new two that had been with their mom for a month, they're not bonded with us. They're very skittish. They'll come for the bottle, but they're more like, we like our bottle. Just don't scratch me, please. So it kind of hurts my feelings a little bit because I want them to be like
Yeah.
squishy in my lap. But it really is kind of interesting. And for me, I'm learning from that. Like, hey, if we don't get our kids in God's word from day one, and we're not immersing them in a culture, of wholesome and pursuing after the Lord, it's a lot easier for them to connect to the heart of God if we have them in it from day one, and
Yeah.
leading them to those green pastures and the still waters ourselves, because we have to be the ones to do that for them. And so that for me has been like a newer thing that the Lord is like, hey, pay attention to this dynamic.
Mm.
Starting out at a month old, they don't care a thing about us, you know?
Yeah.
And they want their food, but they don't want any form of connection. And so that's one of the lessons that I think is pretty incredible to take away from that. Like, hey, because we are, God says we're his sheep. And so when the Bible mentions shepherds and shepherding over 200 times, we have to pay attention. And what I found today was the Hebrew word for shepherding is often translated feeding, which I thought was very interesting, because it does feed us. And even in the Bible, when Jesus was on the earth and he was among the people, among the sheep and ministering, he often fed them.
Yeah.
And healed them and ministered to them in a very tangible physical way.
Yeah.
And so I really love that connection. And then the fact that shepherds were some of the first they were the first to know about Jesus's birth. And God could have announced that to anyone, couldn't he?
Yeah. Why the shepherds? That's interesting.
So that to me, that that says, hey, God wants us to pay attention, to the shepherds and to that whole dynamic of caring for the flock. And he must feel like they're to be trusted, if he.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's where, some of the lessons that I'm learning. And honest, we know Psalm 23, and how it talks about, the Lord being our shepherd. um I shall not want. That means we don't, he's not going to let us lack for anything that we need. And he makes us lie down, he makes us rest. And now I always, when I see a green pasture, that immediately comes to mind. And then he leads us beside the still waters. And when, I don't know if any of y'all watching have a creek, but we have a creek, and when you go walk beside those still waters, there's just something that's the most incredibly healing dynamic that just can't even be explained. And so I'm always just reminded of that passage when I'm beside still waters. um, and he restores our soul.
Yeah.
So as our shepherd, he does those things for us if we will allow that. And so we know that as shepherds of our children, that we have to pay attention to those things of, hey, he's if he leads us beside still waters, then we have to do that same thing for our children. He's
Yeah.
making us lie down. That means we have to be willing to lie down and rest. We have to also do that for our children, like in physical but also spiritual ways. And so and the funny thing about sheep is they are very trusting.
Mm.
And the ones that are bonded, like the one that was bonded to me, and she doesn't, she thinks that she's supposed to be anywhere that I am. nothing nothing concerns her. A vehicle, she just stands there. She's just like, hey, very large vehicle. Does not care that it can smash her. And so we can learn about trust, about being able to safely rest in his presence.
Mm.
And no matter what's going on around us, she'll just lay down right next to me, and just total rest, a total peace, not realizing that she's probably not even supposed to be there.
Oh.
So it's just really sweet. And they're very curious, very, very curious. I mean, she'll just put her nose into anything. And she still tries to come into the house because we are the flock. We
Yeah.
are her people, and they are very communal. Like if they don't have a companion, they get very depressed. And so we didn't have a companion for Millie for a while, and I think that caused her to be even more bonded to us.
Yeah.
But it also shows us our need for community and our need for companionship, and how I'm
Mm.
is. Um, so I could really go on and on, but I know we don't want to take up so much more time.
No,
But
this is so good. I As you're talking, like I just keep thinking in my mind, like of the comparison between the bonded sheep and the sheep that is accepting the food but not completely trusting. And like that's such a picture of how we can be with the Lord as our shepherd, like. And I want to be Millie. I want to be the little lamb who completely trusts and who will lay down in the middle of traffic because I'm that confident that my shepherd is going to secure me.
exactly.
You know, I'm not going to have to worry about, where my next meal is going to come from or if the weather's going to be too bad to, live my life. Like to live in that sort of security and trust. And um, a theme for me, just in general in life lately, the Holy Spirit continues to say the words to me: lean back, lean back. Just trust me. Just lean back, because what I love to do is take something and then try to work my way to making it amazing. Even with this Homestead Kickoff week, like this is hitting at the perfect time for me, this conversation, because I have to lean back. We do all we can do, and then we lean back. And I don't want to be the lamb that is only accepting for the food and not for the presence of my shepherd. And
Exactly.
there's a lesson in that. Like we want the presence of our shepherd, we want the bond and the
Yes.
attachment. That's such a beautiful picture. I love that.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I mean, just that whole dynamic of just letting him take care of us. I mean, the sheep are completely, they have no way to defend themselves.
Yeah.
So they are completely dependent, and they are completely trusting. Like they don't have, our bonded sheep has no idea that anything is wrong. You
Yeah.
know, and that's how we really should be, not worried about, where's my, like you said, where's my next meal coming from, or how is the Lord going to work all of this out? You know, we really don't know. But we can just rest. We can lay down in green pastures. We can be led by the still waters and let him restore our soul. And
Yes.
because we can completely trust in him, we have complete rest in knowing that he is the provider and the shepherd.
So good. So good. Well, thank you, Crystal. Thank you for bringing us into the heart of sheep and giving us that picture of what it can look like. And you've really inspired me to go dive into the Word and look up all of these references to shepherds and sheep. Like, I knew there was a lot in there, but I had no idea it was that
It
much.
really is a lot. As
Yeah.
I was studying, I was like, oh my goodness, like there's just so much to be learned, from just the correlation between caring for sheep and the nature of God. I mean, protection, sacrifice. This, we haven't even gone into that whole entire topic of sacrifice.
Mm,
But sheep were the sacrifice in biblical times. I mean, there were hundreds, thousands of them that were sacrificed, and so they were a very valuable thing. They were of high value.
yeah. Yeah.
Of community and belonging, responsibility, stewardship. It's a pretty deep topic. So I
Mm,
thank you for pushing me to 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 study and dive into it, because there's always lessons. We have There's so many lessons to be learned from raising animals
yeah.
and growing.
It's, the homestead is a place where there's always a deeper meaning, like to everything we do, whether it's in the garden or with the animals. Like, there are always lessons just waiting on us. So I love that. Well, guys, if you're watching this and you want to learn a little more about sheep, we have a resource for you. There is a book all about raising sheep in the Homestead bundle that's happening this week. It's actually only available for 5 more days, and it includes 78 different books and courses. It covers all kinds of topics from gardening, herbs, canning. It has sheep, chickens, ducks, quail, goats. There's stuff about all the animals in there, and tons of courses where you can get specifics on like what kind of feed you need for each animal, what kind of enclosures, how to care for them. So if you haven't already grabbed your bundle, go ahead and grab it tonight, because over the next 5 days we're going to have tons more classes, and we're going to be using all the information out of the bundle almost like as our textbooks to guide our classes. So
I got
go.
mine today.
Yay! It's so
It
good, right?
is.
There's so much good stuff in there, and I've been enjoying it. Like, there's, even doing like homesteading as a full-time job, like that doesn't mean I know all the homesteady things, at all. Like, there's endless things to learn. So, I buy a bundle, even though I'm a contributor, I get one for myself because like there was a sewing class in there that I was excited for. The one on sheep, I was like, we're definitely going to need this. So lots of good stuff in there, and all of that information you can find at the link in my bio, guys. Or if you're watching this replay, you can comment the word kickoff and I'll automatically send you the information. So, all right. Well, thank you, Crystal. I really appreciate you hanging out tonight, and
For
we'll get
having
together in real life soon, friend.
Please, please let's do that.
All right. Well, bye, everybody. Have a good evening.
Bye.